the mayor and you say Vegas?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll
they're gambling.
I was going to say I have to text him and give him a hard time about that. So, well, let's move on to the minutes from April 16th.
Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, make a motion that we accept the minutes from the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals from April 16th, 2024 as presented.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, David Foley.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Let's move on to item 4, which is the committee and staff report and the potential residential development report. Staff have some comments there?
We have no comments at this time for either item.
Okay. Thank you. Let's then move on to the planning commission agenda. So item 5.1, as anybody who's logged in online can see, or has printed out materials as well, the Cornerstone Plan Unit Development, this has been deferred to the June 18th meeting by the request of the applicant. So we will be moving on from item 5.1. Again, June 18th is when this is deferred to. So let's move on then to item 5.2. Which is the recommendation or approval or disapproval of the annexation of the Green Meadows properties. Staff have any comments there?
So this is a case we've seen for some time now. What we have here is about a 1.2 acre parcel of land that the applicant is petitioning to be annexed into Andover. We'll get into a little bit more with the next item, the final plat for Green Meadow properties. But just of note, for utilities, it would need to be connected to SWS. It is currently on rural water number 5. And we'll get into more details with the next item.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions of staff? We've seen this numerous times over the last few months. I do want to mention, as I have each meeting, as a reminder that the applicant's a very good friend, so I'll be abstaining. So don't be surprised if I don't vote when I don't vote.
So the red lined area, that's more than 1.2 acres, right?
That's the
So yeah,
whole,
that's the whole parcel of land that the owner owns, but the parcel to be annexed is in the southern portion of that red line.
Near Prairie Creek in Central?
right. It's
Correct.
the very southwest corner closest to us here.
Thanks.
This was the fire hydrant.
Yes.
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
And wasn't it brought up in subdivision that at some point the county is going to pave the road out there?
Correct. So yeah, it would require a turnaround is the main factor here for the fire. I was going to mention that in the next item, but we're discussing it now, so no issue there. But that's included in the attachments for the subsequent item if you want to see the types of options for those turnarounds. But that's the main issue there, so that the fire has access to it and can maneuver as they need to.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff on this one?
Yeah, so we're only annexing 1.2 acres of the 79.6 that's up.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, make a motion that we approve the annexation of the Green Meadow properties to the governing body.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have a second on this motion?
I'll second that, Peter Fox.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right, motion passes. Let's move on now to item 5.2, which is the annexation of the same parcel. Any additional comments there?
I just want to clarify, are we on item 5.3?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yep, sorry about that. 5.3.
So yeah,
Yeah, the
no,
final plat. Yeah, we just did the
Okay.
annexation. Yep.
yeah, I don't really have any other inputs that we haven't discussed. I wanted to make sure that we discuss the hydrant as well as the paving of the road and having access to a turnaround for fire response. Those are the main things that have been holding up this case in previous months, but those have finally come to resolution. So
Thank you. If there's no more questions, anyone will make a motion?
Well, I
Oh,
actually,
go ahead.
Oh, sure.
actually do have a question.
please.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Looking at the drawing on page 25, there's a nice layout of the land. And it appears that the southwest corner is where the 1.22 acres is going to be. But there's a drawing right below that that looks at Prairie Creek and East Central Avenue, that intersection. And today Prairie Creek doesn't go up the left side, but I'm assuming it will. The way the drawing is, it looks like Prairie Creek's going to go through the property that he's going to annex, which I don't think is true.
yeah, I don't believe it's Prairie Creek. I think that might be the road they were paving to the residents they were discussing. But I couldn't speak to that specifically.
I think if you could call up page 25 on this layout that we have.
Yeah, I don't think we have those on the exhibits.
Okay.
If
Well,
So,
I'm having trouble understanding the drawing, and I realize there's lots of things on these drawings. So I just needed clarification as to what's happening in that corner based
Yeah.
on the drawing.
it's, from my understanding, from our prior meetings and knowing the applicant really well, is that 1 acre right there is going to be a home site for his in-laws. And there will not, Prairie Creek will not extend north there because that's a significant flood zone. And so the north-south road there is going to be Yorktown, which the city has already purchased from the neighbor to the north, is my understanding. So Yorktown, just to the east, will go north through that field to the west of this parcel we're talking about. So Prairie Creek will not continue north there. I think that would be a Herculean, I think FEMA would have to be approved, and it's not going to happen.
yeah, the
Yeah.
mitigation and
Right.
everything would, yeah.
Yeah, even putting a
they've
bridge-
just avoided this
Right.
in the plat. So yeah, I would agree.
Good question, though.
So the entranceway then to this is how far away? I guess it doesn't matter.
It'll be right on
It's-
Central,
it's not going
right there,
through
basically. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Good. I, Marla Canfield, recommend to the governing body, they approve the Green Meadow Properties final plat.
Thank you, Marla. Do we have a second?
I, Gary Israel, will second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Let's move on to item 5.4 then, which is the final plat of the Prairie Creek 7th.
So here we have another project that has been long ongoing. This is the 7th phase and hopefully one or two more to come, two more to come. This is going to be 39 lots of SF2, minimum size of 9,100 square feet. In this addition would include 3 reserves, 2 of which are for open space and landscaping, and 1 of which will be a 6-acre park. Let's see. The 6-acre park would be on this reserve there. The reason for the strange geometry there is 2 pipelines crossing there and the engineering having to go around that. But
Sure.
and the applicant is here as well if you have any additional questions.
Does the applicant have anything to add? No? Okay. Any questions of the applicant from us
We just looked at this one last
Yeah.
week.
in subdivision? Okay.
One question I had is just access to that public park would be from, I guess Limestone Street would be the main access that, like right below the last lot there, number 24.
Chris, excuse me, Chris Rose with Baughman Company, agent for the applicant. Yeah, the main entrance to the park would be from Limestone there
Okay.
on that south end, kind of between, right south of the lot 12, north of the pipeline that is there. But north of Reserve A is another reserve that we have that we platted on the previous plat that is for pond or for drainage. You know, if you live in the area, you could always walk around that and get to the park as well. Or you could be walking up and down the pipelines as well because they're open area as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? No. Thank you very much for coming. Any additional questions for staff or anything? No.
Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, recommend that the governing body approve the final plat for Prairie Creek 7th edition.
Thank you, Gary, for the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Dave Foley. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion passes. Thanks again for coming. Yeah. Let's move on to item 5.5, which is a public hearing on case number Z-SU24-0002. It's important that you present any facts or views you have as evidence so that sorry, I'm going to start over. It is important that you present any facts or views that you have as evidence so that an informed recommendation can be made by the Planning Commission, the governing body, for their final decision. By state statute, the governing body does not have to hold another public hearing on the matter, although they may listen to whomever they wish. You will be asked if there is any new information which was not heard at this hearing. It is to everyone's advantage if you present all necessary information at this hearing. After the city's zoning administrator provides the commission with background information, I will call upon the applicant. Public comments will be heard following the applicant. After all speakers have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for final comments. The Planning Commission will close the hearing to public comments and will then consider the 14 factors on which to base their recommendation. During this time, the commission may direct questions to the applicant, the public, and/or city staff. You should be aware that the Planning Commission can recommend that the site be platted or replatted if necessary, and that a site plan may be required for approval. You should be aware that any uses permitted outright in a district by the regulations can receive a zoning permit. Furthermore, if the applicant chooses to describe various features of their development plans, the city can only enforce those provisions which are covered in zoning and other city codes. Anyone wishing to speak must be recognized by the chairperson and give their name and address. Please use the podium and speak clearly so that your comments can be recorded into inclusion into our minutes. Before we proceed with the hearing, I'll ask the commission members if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they or a relative own property in the area of notification or have a conflict of interest.
No.
None. Official notice for this hearing was published on the City of Andover municipal website on April 26, 2024, and notices were mailed to the applicant and 8 real property owners of record in the area of notification on April 27th, 2024. The record shows at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date, unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present. I will declare that proper notification has been given. Although we do not encourage such communications, I will ask the commission if any of them have received any ex parte verbal or written communications prior to this hearing, which they would like to share.
No.
Okay. I'll now call upon the city zoning administrator to provide us with a report on this case, or city staff in this case.
This property is zone B2. It has a fairly regular shape, you can see. So we've had to apply for a couple of variances as well to it in order for the applicant to develop the land in the way the owner wants. Ultimately, the owner is wanting to use this to build a metal structure to store classic cars and have small, social gatherings with family and friends at the building, and have somewhere to show their cars. So ultimately, this building would be filling an empty lot, would be consistent with the character and aesthetics of nearby structures in the neighborhood, and is in no way opposed to Andover's comprehensive plan. The applicant has conferred with us regularly to ensure that the building would be ADA compliant and have sufficient parking for future use. That should cover the general background
Okay.
for it.
Any questions of city staff at this time? This is another one we've seen quite a few times. I think monthly for the last 4 or 5 months, at least.
Correct.
Any questions, staff, at this time? No?
Will this go to site planning for review?
He has already done site plan, to my knowledge, yeah.
Okay. I know that he's looking at a metal structure
Mm.
on either side or metal buildings.
Mhm.
I sat on site planning years ago, and part of the site planning committee's agenda at the time was no new metal buildings in Andover.
Hmm.
So, this isn't a structure that's back behind somebody's home, not like a garage or something. This is on Allison Street. And I'm just bringing that up. As long as it fits in and everybody's okay with it, I'm okay with a metal building, but I'm just reiterating what site plan had set up as a criteria years ago. And I'm sure, David, you were involved in some of those things when you built your building there on Andover Road. So are we letting the applicant get by with a metal building when that hasn't been typical in Andover lately?
I think that was more for Andover Road, right?
I haven't sat on site planning in a while, so I would defer anything, but I just want it to be made known that, this is a metal building that's on a fairly heavily traveled side street, because it's there by the stadium. So.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or? No? If not, I now call upon the applicant to make his or her presentation on the request in response to any zoning administrator report, if they're here. Not tonight, okay. Normally has been here. Are there any members of the public who'd wish to speak on this case? No? Any written communications been received? Staff's aware of, or?
No.
No, okay. No applicant to make a final comment. Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the commission wishes to ask questions to clarify information. The Planning Commission will now deliberate the request. There are 14 factors which the commission must consider in order to make findings and ultimately a recommendation.
Would you like me to read those, Mr. Chairperson?
I can do it.
Sure, or Dave?
I
wanna
can do it.
That'd be great.
Staff items?
Yep.
Do adequate sewage disposal, water supply, and all the necessary public facilities, including street access, exist? Or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property if the change in zoning were approved? Staff response: the subject property is served with public streets, water, and sewer. 2, if the special use request was approved, would the subject property need to be platted or replatted or have in lieu of dedications made in order to provide needed rights of way, easement, building setback lines, or access control? Staff: the subject property would need to be platted to provide easement and building setbacks lines. Number 3, if the special use request was approved, would the subject property need a screening plan for existing or potential uses? Staff: screening and buffering are required by the Unified Development Manual. The applicant has incorporated 3-foot shrubs in the screening plan to ensure that the parking lot meets UDM standards. Number 4, what fact-based information in support of or in opposition to the requested zoning change has staff received? Staff: none at this time. If there has been an error in the application of these zoning regulations to the subject property, would the requested zoning change correct the error? No errors are known to exist. Staff. Number 6, how suitable or unsuitable is the subject property for its current use? Staff: the subject property is suitable for its current zoning.
Concur.
Concur. 7, is the length of time the subject property has been vacant or undeveloped under its current zoning a factor in the special use request? Staff: no.
Concur.
How reasonably well suited will requested special use of the subject property be with the current zoning of nearby properties? Staff, the proposed use could be compatible with surrounding uses with adequate architectural design and screening.
Concur.
Has the special use been requested because conditions in the area of the subject property have changed or are changing? If so, what is the nature of the significance of these conditions? Staff, no.
Concur.
10, what are the current land uses, character, and condition of the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? Staff, the surrounding land uses are predominantly B2 and B1 zoning districts. The character of the proposed structure would match the character and improve the condition of the surrounding neighborhood.
Concur.
11, what would the proposed special use of the subject property allow land uses which might have detrimental effects on nearby properties? And if so, how? Staff, no.
Concur.
Number 12, how would the requested special use conform with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted master plans and policies? Staff, the requested special use would conform with the city's comprehensive plan by promoting infill and the development of the vacant lot.
Concur.
13, do any professional persons knowledgeable on conditions that affect the special use request have information or recommendations to provide which would be helpful in this evaluation? Staff, approval with a condition to require architectural design treatments to the proposed building and screening of the storage area to better conform with US 54400 corridor study urban design recommendations.
Concur.
How would number 14, how would the potential loss in value or hardship imposed on the applicant compared to the relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare if there is a change from the current use to the requested use? Staff, without adequate screening, the proposed use could have an impact to the public health, safety, and welfare, which would outweigh the hardship imposed on the applicant. Concur.
Thank you, Dave. Having discussed and reached conclusions on our finding of fact, I would remind the commission that a proper motion should reflect the factors on which it is based, and if approval is recommended, then consideration should be given to any conditions that might be attached. Is there a motion to either recommend approval, modification and approval, disapproval, or to table the discussion?
Mr. Chairperson, having considered the evidence at the hearing and the factors to evaluate the application, I, Gary Israel, move that we recommend to the governing body that case number Z-SU24-0002 be approved based on the findings of the Planning Commission on findings number 6, 8, 10, 12, and 13, as recorded in the summary of this hearing.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have a second on the approval?
I'll
Motion?
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. This case will be forwarded to the governing body with the Planning Commission's recommendation and a written summary of the hearing for consideration at the regular meeting of June 11th, 2024. The recording of this hearing will be retained for at least 60 days after the final determination is completed on this case. Protest petitions against the case, but not directed at the Commission's recommendations as such, may be received by the city clerk for 14 days after tonight, which is June 4th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. If there are properly signed protest petitions with accurate legal descriptions from the owners of record of 20% or more of the total real property owners within the official area of notification, both inside and outside of the city and not counting public street right-of-ways or specific statutorily excluded property, then such a change shall not be passed except by a 3/4 vote of all the members of the city council. All right. Let's move on to item 5.6, which is a special use at 1609 East Central. This is a public hearing on case Z-SU24-0003. It's important that you present any facts or views you have as evidence so that an informed recommendation can be made by the Planning Commission to the governing body for their final decision. By state statute, the governing body does not have to hold another public hearing on the matter, although they may listen to whomever they wish. You shall be asked if there is any new information which was not heard at this hearing. It is to everyone's advantage if you present all necessary information at this hearing. After the city's zoning administrator provides the commission with background information, I will call upon the applicant. Public comments will be heard following the applicant. If all speakers have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for final comments. The Planning Commission will close the hearing to public comments and will then consider the 14 factors on which to base the recommendation. During this time, the commission may direct questions to the applicant, the public, and/or city staff. You should be aware that the Planning Commission can recommend that the site plan be platted or replatted if necessary, and that a site plan may be required for approval. You should be made aware that any uses permitted outright in a district by the regulations can receive a zoning permit. Furthermore, if the applicant chooses to describe various features of their development plans, the city can only enforce those provisions which are covered in zoning and other city codes. Anyone wishing to speak must be recognized by the chairperson to give their name and address. Please use the podium and speak clearly so that your comments can be recorded for inclusion into our minutes. Before we proceed with the hearing, I'll ask the commission members if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they or a relative own property in the area of notification or have conflicts of interest.
No.
None.
Official notice for this hearing was published on the City of Andover municipal website on April 26, 2024, and notices were mailed to the applicant and 9 real property owners of record in the area of notification on April 27, 2024. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Although we do not encourage such communications, I will ask the commission if any of them have received any ex parte, verbal, or written communications prior to this hearing which they would like to share.
None.
I'll now call upon the city's zoning administrator or city staff to provide us with a report on this case.
So currently, right now, the city, when we hold events at this location, which is the subject property, we would need to request catering licenses for each event. With ASM in the future coming to provide those services for the city of Andover, this special use permit would make it so that that request would just be submitted annually as opposed to each event, thereby increasing, burden upon the city and ASM. So yes, this would just permit that to be an annual.
Okay.
Annual.
Yep. Any questions of city staff?
Yeah, I have one question. What's that little square down there that's not included in the park?
Just geo-referencing that looks like it might be where the cell towers are. That's speculation though.
It's no drinking on the cell tower. then.
No climbing and drinking. That's good.
The cell towers for purposes of taxing are cut out from the park because we do pay property tax for the cell tower land because we collect a rent. So that's why it shows up like that.
Okay, thank you.
More information than you wanted to know.
No, it's good that everybody knows the reason why.
Yeah, thanks.
This permit is only going to be for ASM, right? Like I can't show up with my cooler and sell beers out of it at an event.
Correct.
Because I would totally do that.
So you'd have to be licensed. So I don't know that it would 100% always be ASM, but they'd have to
Have
go
to be a
through the
license.
same city and state licensing, in the future.
When looking at the total, it's the total park that's being authorized, right?
Correct.
Half the park is currently not even developed, right?
Yep.
So we're just doing it with the idea that someday it will be, right?
Yes, it's largely, for the amphitheater, the future lodge sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to say, I like this idea because I recently attended an event up in Wamego that they took their city park and they hosted a big wine day for Kansas wineries. And it was really cool. And it was really neat to see that Wamego embraced this, that there were some challenging conversations with the chamber of how they could control all this, but it was just a really great use of their space and it allowed for a lot of people to come into town and check out their community. So
Yeah, creating those social areas, third places, consistent with the Andover's comprehensive plan as well. So, the staff can definitely recommend that as well.
Good. Any other questions of staff? No? I now call upon the applicant to make his or her presentation on the request in response to any zoning administrator's report.
The applicant would just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I figured.
Good evening. Catherine Ewing with ASM Global. I am the director of the amphitheater. This zoning change or this special use permit would allow us to obtain the type of liquor license that we utilize in all of our other facility, or in two of our other facilities in Wichita, Intrust Bank Arena and the Orpheum. It allows us to, utilize our best practices and what is recommended with our organization in utilizing the alcohol license to the best of our ability.
Sure. Okay. Any questions of the applicant?
What type of alcoholic beverages are we talking about here? Mixed drinks, wine, beer?
Yes.
Okay.
And also soft beverage in the mix too.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the applicant? No. Thank you for coming. I think that's,
Certainly.
thank you. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak on this case? If any written communication been received? Not that we know of. I assume the applicant does not have any final comments they'd like to make. You're good? All right. Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the commission wishes to ask questions to clarify information. The Planning Commission will now deliberate the request. There are 14 factors which the commission must consider in order to make the findings and ultimately a recommendation. I could do this one. If I can find them. You got them? Go for it. Yeah, would be great.
So, staff items, number one, do adequate sewage disposal and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on subject property if the change in zoning were approved? Staff's response: the subject property is served with public streets, water, and sewer. Number two, if the special use request was approved, would the subject property need to be platted or replatted or have in lieu of dedications made in order to provide needed rights-of-way, easements, building setbacks, lines, or access control? The answer is staff, no. Number three, if the special use request was approved, would the subject property need screening, a screening plan, or existing or for potential use? And the answer is no from staff. Number four, what fact-based information in support or in opposition to the requested zoning change has staff received? Staff, none at this time. Number five, if there had been an error in the application of these zoning regulations to the subject property, would the requested zoning change correct the error? Staff, no errors are known to exist. Staff and commission council items. Number six, how suitable or unsuitable is the subject property for its current use? Staff, the subject property is suitable for its current zoning.
Concur.
Concur.
Number seven, is the length of time the subject property has been vacant or undeveloped under its current zoning a factor in the special use request? Staff, no.
Concur.
Concur.
Number eight, how reasonably well suited will the requested special use of the subject property be with the current zoning of nearby properties? Staff, the proposed use would be well suited for the zoning of nearby properties.
Concur.
Concur.
Number nine, has the special use been requested because conditions in the area of the subject property have changed or are changing? If so, what is the nature and significance of these conditions? Staff, no.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 10, what are the current land uses, character and condition of the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? Staff, the surrounding land uses are predominantly extraterritorial jurisdiction areas and SF1 and SF2 zoning districts. The current land use, character, and condition has a profoundly positive impact on the surrounding neighborhood by offering open space, and recreation services.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 11, would the proposed special use of the subject property allow land uses which might have detrimental effects on nearby properties? And if so, how? Staff, no.
Concur.
Number 12, how would the requested special use conform with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted master plan and policies? Staff, the requested special use would conform with the city's comprehensive plan by developing an accessible recreational open space that promotes a vibrant and social lifestyle.
Concur.
Number 13, do any professional persons knowledgeable on conditions that affect the special use request have information or recommendation to provide, which would be helpful in its evaluation? Staff, no.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 14, how would the potential loss in value or hardship imposed on the applicant compared to the relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare if there is a change from the current use to the requested use? Staff, the change would have no foreseeable adverse impact on public health, safety, or welfare.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you. Having discussed and reached conclusions on our finding of fact, I would remind the commission that a proper motion should reflect the factors on which it is based. If approval is recommended, then consideration should be given to any conditions that might be attached. Is there a motion to either recommend approval, modification and approval, disapproval, or to table the discussion?
Aye. All make a motion to approve. Have you considered the evidence? Is that what I read there?
Yeah.
Yep, you got it.
Having considered the evidence at the hearing and the factors to evaluate the application, I, David Foley, move that we recommend to governing body that case number Z SG 24-003 be approved based on the findings of the Planning Commission on findings 6, 8, 10, 12, as recorded in the summary of this hearing.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I, Gary Israel, second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. This case will be forwarded to the governing body with the Planning Commission's recommendation and a written summary of the hearing for consideration at the regular meeting of June 11th, 2024. The recording of this hearing will be retained for at least 60 days after the determination is completed on this case. Protest petitions against the case, but not directed at the Commission's recommendation as such, may be received by the city clerk for 14 days after tonight, which is June 14th at 4:30 p.m. If there are properly signed protest petitions with accurate legal descriptions from the owners of record of 20% or more of the total real property owners within the official area of notification, both inside and outside of the city, and not counting public street rights of way or specific statutorily excluded property, then such a change shall not be passed except by 3/4 vote of all members of the city council. Very good. We have any member items? No? Gary,
I
you always have at least one.
Yeah, I always have.
Let's
one
go for it.
member
Yeah.
item. Jenny, anything going on back there? All I know is that this last week I helped participate in an active, used to be shooter event. What is it now called? Active threat. Okay. It just puts everybody on a little bit heightening deal. I saw this gentleman walk up. He had his hands in his pockets. He walked back and forth a couple of times, never entered. Luckily, he pulled his hands out of his pockets, but he stood around for a while. Just kind of makes it, does everybody here know what needs to happen if there is an active threat here while we're in the chambers?
I assume this is bulletproof. I can just.
Right. Jenny, isn't there an alarm somewhere?
Yeah.
There isn't? I
No.
thought somebody mentioned it at some point. So we're kind of on our own, aren't we, here on Tuesday evening? Well, we have exits and stuff like that, but I think, we do sit on a commission that sometimes isn't the most appreciated in the city.
No, say it isn't. sir.
I'm not saying it so. Anyway, I love serving the city, and I think we do a wonderful job of exploring the things and trying to meet what everybody means, but we're not going to please everybody. So I think we just need to be aware sometimes of what's going on. I'm glad we do live in the city of Andover. We've got a great first responders group in the police and the fire department and EMS. So I do appreciate that.
Thank you, Gary. Anybody else?
So has anybody ever Google mapped the sewage treatment plant or the limb drop off at the sewage treatment plant? I don't know what's happened, but I run, there's 10 people I turn around today on.
Thanks for coming.
If there was 10 people drive up and down my driveway to dump limbs, and I'm thinking, how can you possibly, but then you look on the map and it's kind of easy to see how sometimes especially if you're driving while you might suspect, is there any way, who would I ask, who would I appeal to maybe get a sign that says,
Sure.
you know what I mean? The sewage treatment plant is,
Yeah, we can definitely put some
I even
thought
have
at
a
that. I
like
think that
slow children at
what's-
play sign up and everything, and
Yeah.
they still just come down and they're
Well, I'm
like,
trying to think because what we would need to do is put a sign on someone else's property because we've got a sign at the plant that says wastewater plant
yes.
and where to turn in. So we can put some thought into, getting permission or something from another property owner to put some kind of signage up.
Yeah, because
You're not there yet, sign.
That's not, yeah, I keep going. And the traffic, the trail, the walking path, there is huge success. Yeah, a lot of people using that. I think that's wonderful. That's all I have.
Are the goats still out there?
I haven't heard them.
Okay.
Do they have a donkey that protects them? Cece? Is it Cece? We're like this.
Names.
I love Cece.
You like Napoleon?
Is it?
We watched Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, yeah. No, Cece.
That one is Tina, I think.
Tina. Yeah, Tina. No, this is Cece.
Here's your food, Tina.
Yep.
And this is going downhill fast here.
Expected carrots.
Big time. Fast. I better shut her down. Anybody else have comments or anything? No? All right. Well, I don't think I have anything. I'll go ahead and we need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second the motion.
All right. I didn't really make a motion. I'll make a motion to go ahead and adjourn our meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Good. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Good.
Sometimes my hearing aids only